All right. Raise a hand if you are in the infrastructure space. Raise a hand if you're in the AI space. Founder, builder, cool. Okay. Raise your hand if you are in a different space and you're trying to figure out what's going on here. Ooh, okay, specialized, I like it. We want a diversity. All right, so this panel is the AI cloud landscape by 2030. I'll start by introducing our esteemed speakers here on the panel. I'll start with Graham, because he's first on my list. Keep you guys on your toes. All right, so Graham here is the founder and CEO of MSEARCH, a recruitment firm specializing in go-to-market leadership and placements for the data, AI, ML space and cloud infrastructure space. Under his leadership, MSearch has built a reputation for its client-centric, data-driven, and process-oriented approach, effectively connecting top-tier talent with organizations in need. Mr. Locklear's expertise lies in understanding the intricacies of building high-performing go-to-market teams. He emphasizes the importance of aligning hiring strategies with the company's growth stage and market dynamics. Fun fact, he placed me at Atlas Cloud. You are welcome. All right, now for Ms. Carmen Lee, CEO of Silicon Data, a company dedicated to revolutionizing compute markets through unparalleled data transparency. Under her leadership, Silicon Data has evolved innovative products such as Silicon Navigator, providing GPU price insights, Silicon Carbon, focusing on carbon footprint tracking, addressing key challenge in the compute ecosystem, and Silicon Mark, a leading benchmark solution designed to evaluate and certify GPU performance. Give a hand for Ms. Carmen Lee. All right, up next, Mr. Dip Patel, CTO of Soluna. Mr. Patel is a technologist, engineer, entrepreneur, and chief technology officer, where he leads efforts to make stranded green energy profitable through off-grid, high-density computing. His passion for sustainable energy solutions drives his work in integrating renewable energy into data centers, enhancing their efficiency and environmental impact. Let's give a round of applause. Up next, we have Mohammed Zaman, Chief Strategist at Netcom Learning, where he currently serves an organization dedicated to advancing digital transformation through targeted technology education. He's driving initiatives leveraging generative AI, cloud computing, and cybersecurity. Additionally, he holds leadership roles as director at Washington University Science of Technology, WUST, and as a technology consultant focused on AI, cloud, cybersecurity for Cloud Camp Bangladesh, which aims to digitize national infrastructure and inspire future generations of technology professionals. His collective efforts are aligned with achieving Bangladesh's ambitious vision of becoming a digitally advanced nation by 2041. Let's give a hand. Pardon me, human fail. Paper. All right. Last but not least, we have Vijay Ghosh, CTO of Deutsche Bank, where he is the global head of cloud product engineering and AI ML. He leads strategic initiatives aimed at revolutionizing the bank's cloud infrastructure through advanced applications of AI, data and analytics, and automation. His vision involves adopting autonomous systems and Gen AI to significantly enhance operational efficiency, scalability, compliance, and positioning the bank at the forefront of the AI cloud evolution, which is anticipated over the next decade. Let's give a round of applause. All right, let's get right into it. What is this future state or current state of the future state, if there even is one? So, as AI models scale to enormous sizes and specialized capabilities, how can cloud infrastructure evolve at an adequate speed? And are the options we currently have sufficient? Let's start with you, Carmen.
We'll go in this order. So, hi, my name is Carmen. Very different from the gentleman here. I cover mostly the pricing, the benchmark services. What I see is what we have is 3.5 million market data points around the world for different pricing models, rental and retail. So that being said, the way I look at when a new model comes out, the way we look at it is how the pre-training and inferencing can be different, depends on the model itself. So the translate to token will be different, translate to cost will be different. So we still see some interesting the L4s and the V100s in use because hey, it's for some models. And then if the model gets larger, maybe you have to pivot into different chips. So that might impact on commercial. Gonna leave the other interesting things for other panelists. But pricing, that will be a big deal. You want to come out, the pricing will be different, translate to GPU per hour, you pay this fluctuation.
So my opinion on this, I think, I do think that models will increase in size from a parameter perspective, but I also think there's going to be just a ton more model activity, right? So if agents end up taking off, if you think about all the sort of mindless behaviors that we do day in and day out in front of our computer, like answering an email or building a slide deck or filling out something in a CRM. All those mindless things actually require your mind, right? So take that and translate it to compute and turn it into a workload, right? So if you think about that at scale, the increased demand for compute, I think, is going to be tremendous. So, if you ask, do we have the solution today to kind of solve that? I don't know if the answer is yes. I think we definitely need more compute. We also need a ton of advancement across the entire stack, the model layer, the hardware layer. Software is going to be huge in sort of creating visibility and creating a situation where you can place workloads at the most efficient part of the compute portfolio. So I think we have a lot of work to do. I think the work's cut out for us, but some exciting times ahead.
Thank you. I really like the word mindless because a lot of mindless works are going to be automated. So first of all, I personally feel like that this is just the beginning and tip of the iceberg. And one of the biggest things going to happen is fundamentally, or right now, a lot of even larger trillions of parameters are going to come in. We're going to see that. I also do see the quantization of these particular models running locally in your laptops, in your phones and such, and there is going to be significant shrunk model that is, right now, it doesn't give you the right answer or the right behavior. I foresee that's going to happen. But one thing I for sure see that the AI has been democratized and given to so many people and consumers so much that innovation will be limitless and to the infinite, and that's where I see the significant differences will happen. Wherever things used to happen in months or years or something like that, it is going to be happening in days and hours.
That's wonderful insight. I want to piggyback on that one first, and I teach entrepreneurship, and one thing I've seen around the world is that they used to compare themselves to the Valley, America, and say, we don't have this, we don't have that, because the Valley has it, this expertise or this tool set. But that entire mindset in other countries has gone away due to AI, because now they have AI and they're like, screw it, we're close enough, right? Which is that subtle shift in mindset, that little hope, is pretty amazing for entrepreneurs. What I would say on this whole, just not to, there's a lot here, is, in human history, if you look at the internet, before that, the electric motor, it starts with the most obvious use cases, and then it proliferates everywhere, right? The internet is everywhere now. It drives cars, picks my food, everything, right? And I think AI will do the same thing. And what's going to happen is thousands of custom chips are going to come out, right? Because right now we're brute forcing models into GPUs and doing software tweaks and firmware tweaks to optimize it, but nothing's going to beat a custom chip. And when you can make a custom chip for $10, $20, go look at Lockheed Martin and other defense industries. They're spending millions and millions, hundreds of millions into manufacturing technology for rapid prototyping of chips. And so data centers are going to have to adapt to a much more fragmented chipset kind of selection as we get bigger. And that's going to be awesome because there'll be a chip for everything.
All opinions are mine. I do believe that there is a lot of constraint in the current state of the cloud right now. And as we see, there's a lot of things in optimizations are happening, not only the hardware or software, but also the architecture elements, right? DeepSeek is something, a breakthrough which you have seen, right? Someone have find out the architecture in terms of how you're going to optimize it 10x or 1000x times, right? But I think I do see the evolving need in three categories, right? The data intensity is increasing. The training is also increasing, definitely, but the inference is paramount, right? And I think this is where a lot of architectural changes will be happening, like cost efficiency is one of them. How you're going to shift more into the elastic model. I have seen, in the industry, they are pulling back from the cloud to the neo cloud or more cognitive cloud or even to the private cloud. So I think it's an interesting time how things are evolving. And it's good to know that where the market is getting into it is a new spectrum overall.
Awesome. Let's keep it with you. Since that goes right into the next question, which is about navigating market shifts and growth opportunities. One of the early movers in this space who pivoted into this space was CoreWeave. They're filing for their S1. And then you have even more specialized, I'd say, new and improved companies like Atlas Cloud who've taken the ball and created something even more relevant. When you think about everything that's coming and why it's coming, if you could basically design a feature or a functionality for the future based on all the things you said that should exist, like what would it be? Like if this is like a mega wish, what would you create?
Yeah, I think it's more about how you want to provide more personalized service to your customer. Okay, through that lens, we are pivoting more into the AI native stage of the cloud, where the cloud is not only the cloud, but you wanted to have more personalized solutions, right? More better experience, more intense data where you can run through and provide those services to the customer. That's my take.
Awesome.
Same one.
Oh, keep going. Yeah, what do you want?
Yeah, for me, I would do what I'm doing now, which is recognize that AI is limited by power. And right now, nobody gives a shit whether the power is green or not. And so they just care about availability and whether it's going live. And yet the earth is burning. And so if we can bring the data center to the power, you unlock unlimited green energy. And that's really what I want to see happen, because the use cases of AI and the power use of AI is going to happen regardless of what we do in this room, right? But we need to start bringing sustainability back to the forward. And I heard the panel earlier that brought up the water use and the electricity, and so we got to keep doing that. So that's what I would do, is make AI cheap by connecting it to green energy.
Thank you. I was thinking about like the GPU, make that programmable based on the models and inference the way that it needed to be, because of the fact, I remember a long time ago, one thing that I did in my very early ages, a network card used to call TCNS, Thomas Conrad. I don't know if anybody remember that one. You used to switch dip switches, and that's how you made the MAC address manually. And that's what we do today with the GPUs and CPUs, because these are particular physical devices that are made. I'd love to see all of those things are quantumized basically, as well as fully programmable.
So for me, I think it's more about the ecosystem adapting. I'm really excited about the neo cloud space. I'm kind of a junkie about this stuff, but I think that if you look at what's going on with CoreWeave, right? I mean, incredible growth. They went from like 20 million to almost 2 billion in 2 years. It's unheard of. They've got a huge debt load, which is something that they'll have to consider. But if you think about originally why CoreWeave had an upper hand over AWS is because AWS is at a certain scale where they don't really have the ability to really kind of put the white gloves on and customize for certain customers, right? CoreWeave had the nimble advantage there and really focus on these AI-specific workloads. They're going to hit a point pretty soon, and the complexity of these different workloads is going to increase. So there's going to come a time where CoreWeave can't necessarily put on those same white gloves. So I think for the neo cloud space and the AI cloud space, I'm really looking forward to specialization becoming a thing. Even with the increased complexity of these AI workloads, if you get to know a certain customer archetype really, really well and understand their problems really, really well, and understand their AI workloads really, really well. Eventually, certain patterns will emerge, and I think you'll be able to service those customers at a higher level. So that's something I'm looking forward to.
So I guess core of this thing here. So one of the core angel investors invests in my company as well, just for disclosure. The way I look at this is from a very financial infrastructure point of view. So I would love to have financial products for the compute industry for people to manage their volatility. The way I mention it is you think about oil, energy space, right? American Line doesn't call OPEC saying that, hey, can I have a 5-year long contract with you? Can I lock in price? They don't do that. They go to the futures market and then buy and sell whatever option future they want to do to hedge whatever duration rates they want to hedge. It's transparent, flexible, cheap, effective. And that happens for electricity, for water, corn, right? Anything, commodities. For compute, what do we do today? You call one of the hyperscalers, or you're at the mercy of spot, which is your mercy of demand supply. No one can really predict that. So for the industry to really grow, you really need a financial product to manage your risk exposures. To take away the volatility, for data center, naturally long, right, industry participants, you can hedge your revenue fluctuation. For people who need compute, you can manage those through futures options, which is very cheap in exchange. So that's what I'm here for. We'll create data products, financial products to help people manage their risk exposure. And I think, so my theory is compute as an underlying resource will be a bigger market than all energy combined. If you look at IC, how much energy trading today, and then you can extrapolate that for compute. It's a big, gigantic market. We need financial products to help you manage risk globally.
Absolutely. These guys are so good at setting up the next question. It's unbelievable. Ooh. Okay, so that was fun. We got a little bit of vision. We got some feature requests. This next one's going to be uncomfortable because we're going to be talking about procurement and aging skills and stacks. Raise your hand if you've had to learn something new because one of your skills has been deemed redundant. Anyone have to learn new stuff? Cool. Cool. Anybody else? Anyone deprecating anything in their stack? They're like, oh, I can't use this anymore, or I shouldn't use this anymore. Anybody? Oh yeah. Yeah, I know. So, to be frank, the half-life of skills and software is shrinking. Agents are eating software development, media clouds are viable, but procurement seems to stay the same. Will we see real-time consumption-based procurement models take center stage? What skills will be required internally and externally to make this vision that we have a reality? Do you need to have different types of relationships with different types of vendors? This question is really like, okay, everybody wants all the best things and has the best intentions, but when the rubber hits the road, like, what does that actually mean in getting this through and getting this deployed?
Obviously, I'm coming from having a lot of conversations with CTOs and head of AIs. What they look at me is like, hey, how can we manage their budget and costs, right? So one of the things I encourage them to say, hey, obviously, if you just double down H100, A100, great. But do you really need all the best chips? Do you really need to retire them after 2-3 years, right? What workflow really require what kind of chips? If you want to be really, targeted, maybe able to manage your costs a little better. That's one of the things I suggest is whoever in the procurement space, especially in the AI workflow, should work very closely with the CTO office and the head of VP of engineering, the AI, so figure out exactly what they need, how large a cluster, what does it mean by cluster, how much connectivity, fiber connectivity you really need, and really tailor that needs with the budgeting process.
So from my perspective on this, right, you're already seeing like usage-based become a big thing, not only in like the model layer with the tokens, but also it's becoming in vogue in sort of legacy SaaS as well. So I think it's an interesting concept to maybe figure out a way to apply that same kind of philosophy to compute. I don't know if we have the technical capability to do that at scale right now. Along the lines of, what talent is going to be needed, right? I think the short answer is just more. Our thesis is that, technical acumen needs to start to permeate through the entire organization, right? At every single level, right? We've all met that one person in marketing or HR that is a whiz with ChatGPT and can just do more, right? So I think there's going to be a lot more of that, even all the way up to the front line, your sellers, your marketers, your sort of consulting people that are the tip of the spear when you're engaged in the market. Those people need to have much more technical know-how. In terms of the pricing stuff, I think there's a lot of room for improvement at the software layer, right? We think about compute, again, I said the demand's going to increase, the complexity is going to increase, right? Enterprises are going to have these large portfolios of compute assets, whether that's the edge or on-prem or neoclouds or public clouds. There's going to be different chips, like Dip was saying, right? Not just GPUs, but also CPUs and LPUs and TPUs and all the PUs, right? The complexity is going to go way up. So in the software layer, I think there's a lot of opportunity to increase visibility for these things. Not only being able to place these workloads in the most efficient spot, but also be able to create some transparency about like, how much am I spending right now? I think we've all heard the horror stories of like the AWS credit wallets just going gangbusters. And companies being like, help me, I just spent $22 million by accident, right? That's gonna go away, and it's gonna be a tough challenge because, as I said, the complexity is gonna increase here. So specifically in the software layer, I think there's gonna be a lot of really, really cool innovation around visibility, governance. So I'm really excited for a bunch of that stuff.
I think one of the things we need to do a lot of unlearning of the things that we have done over the years as a legacy. I think this is a very transformational wave at this moment. So starting from the procurement side, it used to be a farm fixed price. You bid for $100, you get something for $100, you procure something. You can buy a hardware, you can buy a software. Then of course we got the telco side and the cloud side. We had the consumption-based megabit per second and CPU per hour and all those kind of mechanisms that came into play. So we had to learn those things. It took a tremendously long time for people to realize what those are because everybody's used to with a commitment and getting a discount and all of those kind of mechanisms. I think fundamentally the next shift is going to be consumption, but even further micro level consumption with tokenization. I do foresee that token could be a unit of price and the measurable unit of price and measurable quantification of what my commitment can be and should be and would be. And I do see categorization on that one, meaning that, okay, I'm using a reasoning model, I'm using a general purpose model or whatever it is, the modeling capabilities of it. So that's how I see the pricing has to be, in my opinion, to take advantage of the true AI and all of these benefits. It has to be transformational rather than an evolutionary mechanism. Second thing that I see, of course, I come from the skill side, and I do see a tremendous amount of unlearn is needed on that one. Because I come from the machine learning background, and I know that is as fundamental, and we may say that, okay, you are expert in this, and you know this, and then afterward, tomorrow morning, you wake up, and none of those things that you know has any value to it. And in fact, those are all debt. Those are, I call it boat anchor. The boat is not going to move with those knowledge and skills anymore. So fundamentally, I think one of the skill that we have to learn very quickly and very rapidly, how to unlearn the things that I have learned and has no use for making any decision or building something on it. So on the skill side, I do see education system needs a tremendous attention from everybody, because it's not that easy to change the curriculum, but you can evolve that education system to a point starting from very early age. My kids, my son is in high school right now, they know Python programming, and I thought that that's amazing. I went to their kindergarten school, and then afterward I saw they're doing MIT Scratch, and then I went to the 5th grader, they're writing a Python program with data science. So, we're not equipped to even communicate with these generational people. So, we got to figure out how to do these skills and take advantage of them. What is that? We work our working mechanism is a full-time employee, and the work mechanism has been for a long time. I work for IBM, I started my job, I retire with my job. You know, those days are over. This is a gig economy. I do 50 jobs, and I do the jobs that I am only qualified and really good at, and that's all I do, and I get out of it, and then I do something else. So I think that that gig economy concept is going to be tremendously valuable. So there's a shift on the skill to the workforce readiness to actually contribution to the economy is going to be fundamental. And so one of the biggest thing that I see, and overall all these things, is significant transformation. It is going to happen. Possibly not what I can imagine. Possibly the person who is in 10th grade or 8th grade or 9th grade, they're going to do it. But that shift will happen regardless, because we have seen all industrial revolutions had all these transformational shift. But one thing I can say is that it is absolutely transformational, not evolution, not moving and increasing, not incremental, not at all.
Yeah, just think about it like the electric motor, right? Just changes everything. What I would say is you got to think for us, it's enterprises haven't yet started going on this. The couple that have, like Oracle, right, and Grok, have dumped a ton of money into the couple neo clouds that are kicking butt. But if you think about this stuff, 512 GPUs, right, to deploy it is about a megawatt of consumption, okay? So 512 GPUs, 1 megawatt, costs about $10 million for the building, $5 million to develop the property, right? And then $25 million for the equipment. So $50 million for 512 GPUs. So I've got 3 gigawatts of wind energy, right? And I've got investors that are saying, we'll give you $1 billion. You've seen these numbers, right? These like monopoly money. Well, I guess monopoly's inflated out, but you get the idea. Like, these numbers are insane. CoreWeave raises $5 billion, Applied raises $3 billion, things like that. That's not that much once enterprises get going, right? And so for us, what we're trying to figure out is how do we get consumption up? So from our perspective, it's all about the market makers, right? Atlas Cloud, SF Compute's another, RunPod, all these aggregators. Those are all existing because their only reason is to fill my data centers. Because we put out so much money to get these things built, right? And we've got to keep them full for 2 to 3 years to get the money back. And so when the enterprises start cranking, you're going to start to see these aggregators, unless they've got real good chops and software, start to die out. And in terms of skills, I agree. It's across the stack. And I encourage anybody here to look at the whole stack. Whatever your background and passion is, there's a home for you here in AI, because it's going to change everything.
Wow, way to set him up. Enterprise.
Yeah, my perspective is in the pricing category. There's a 2 different spectrum. The first is from the enterprise model. The enterprise is moving from OpEx to CapEx, right? There's a huge surge how they wanted to secure GPU and LPU and TPUs. And from the user, of course, we are moving and shifting from subscription or from usage to the value-based pricing, right? Like per token pricing. So I think that is the category, and it's going to emerge more and more as we see more value from the user perspective. Coming from the skills side, of course, I do not look for people at this moment who have the skills of Python or Go or anything, right? I want to understand a person who have the critical thinking, right? And with the critical thinking, how you can do various different tasks in a very fluid way, right? Which means that can you use cursor? And again, I'm not trying to magnify the brand, but I think it's all about how fluidly you can do certain different tasks with the better efficiency. So I think this is all about stack engineering, more important than the AI stack engineering.
So good. No, keep it with you. Here we are talking about new skills, new stacks, and redundancy. And our panel here just made my last question redundant. Already been answered. So we're not going to revisit. We're going to move forward and we're going to try something a little fun, something different. I'm going to have everybody ask each other questions in these final how many minutes?
1 minute.
We have 10 minutes. So now's your chance to ask an expert whatever question you want to ask, and then let's just pass these mics around and have a good time.
I think my question is for everyone here in this panel, and more importantly with Dipul, right? How do you see the carbon emission is getting impacted, right? And how directly it transacts with the sustainability, especially with this political climates, right? Where the sustainability is depreciating in terms of the modern infrastructure, but where do you see in 3 to 5 years would be standing and landing up?
I'm very worried. There's a lot of greenwashing and a lot of ways to mask what these things are really doing. And a lot of people aren't even looking at the water use, first or secondary, mentioned earlier on the panel. What I would say is we got to make it cheaper. That's the only way we're going to win, right? In terms of what I mean by sustainable compute. I'm very concerned about the fact that AI is driven entirely by profit right now. No one really cares about, they're not putting a premium on green compute, right? And so the only way green compute can become a thing is if it's cheaper. And it will be, and it's faster. We can connect to a wind farm in 2 years, whereas if you want to build a new substation on the grid, it takes like 7, right? So in every axis, it's better. We just have to kind of get the value prop out there. And so that's what I hope to see. Great question. Can I pass the question on? I
Yeah.
want to know, how do you even start a futures market to like the layman?
Oh, here you go.
Can I just say something about the carbon really quickly? I'm really passionate about that too. So one of the things I just want to add on is, number one, we need transparency, right? Because no one can really do anything without any information. So one of the things I think is important is you go down to the machine level. If you know you're using A100, you know you can use it for 1,000 hours, for example. You know what the data centers are. You know the grade information. You can calculate the freaking carbon footprint. So that's my product too. I have a product called Silicon Carbon. We have all the hyperscaler, geolocation, and on-premise data center. You can put in this API part, you can batch it, well, tell you the carbon footprint associated with that, and then you can hedge it, trade it, I don't know, do anything you want, right? But we don't have the off-grid information. Even the thermal, right? We don't have that information. So we should talk about, we're looking to get off-the-grid information. I think it's very important. And also there are people, the nation state data center build up people tell me, hey Carmen, our data center is all great. I was like, how? Oh, it's all powered by natural gas, the flares, right? I was like, okay, so but then you have to compress it, you transport it, how would that work? So all those questions, how do we answer those? To bring the data, some context without greenwashing, with a third party supposed to do that. Can you trust the hyperscale to tell you how they do it, or a third party should come in, right? So it's something we should talk about.
Check out Spherical Labs out of Boston. Check out Spherical Labs out of Boston. They're trying to do that. They're partnered with Microsoft to add like
The carbon footprint.
Yeah, it might be
the
helpful.
machine level, and the GPU have the TDP. Can we trust the TDP number versus the stack number?
Exactly right.
And then the data can extrapolate that. We did a lot of research on that.
Yeah, there's so much to it that's unaccounted for.
Yeah. So that's something we want to do as well. And then more than the CO2, about SO2, right? SO2, other gases as well. So we're going very quickly into the rabbit hole. But for the futures market, the way I look at it is the difference between GPUs versus electricities, right, is not homogeneous products. And if you look at spot market, obviously, if Singapore is cheaper than US, I'm not gonna move, right? My whole location is because it's like $2 versus $2.50. However, as a financial product, you can use that to hedge. It's because it's financially settled, right? You can use that to hedge 80% of cost fluctuation. Probably it's good enough, right? So everything we do is not delivered physically. So we will print whatever you call the H100 settlement prices, which will normalize over 100 configurations globally, right? And then it's the sort of really highly correlated with per GPU power. However, if it's the token economics came off, people stop paying per GPU power. People pay per $1 million token for whatever use cases. We have that too. So it doesn't matter if the underlying GPU design houses, right? If it's MI300, great, we can do something similar, right? For us, the index, the continuity matters. So, and then we're not going to be the exchange. We're licensing the IP to the exchange to do that. Exactly. With S&P, I'm never intend to build an exchange for that.
Great. So I'll tap into this one and I'll ask a question. So sustainability, I think, in everybody's mind, regardless of what your view is, and something everybody wants a better future for the whole earth and the way to do it. I think transparency is fundamentally one of the big one, but I do personally foresee the greenwashing. If we can create a report of, these are the big companies and they are greenwashing, and some sort of indicator, because this is so crucial, not having transparent information into that one. And you can see from how outside is that they're doing so much. Okay, they are the greatest one. They're going, fully 100% recycled products and getting 100% carbon neutral. What does it actually mean? Really, the reality is that there are some statements out there. I think some of them are truly misleading, and some of them actually make you, worry about the future completely differently. And when you see these kind of statements, you think that, okay, this company is really good. Okay, let's invest in them. Let's work for them. Let's support them. And that becomes really big challenging. So I personally, definitely transparency is a big one, but I think that a greenwashing indicator for organizations could be personally a good one.
You need that to come out of a school, can't come out of industry.
Oh, we can do a research on that. Thank you. So from my perspective is that I do see that, again, I come from the skills side and the workforce readiness side. I did work for AWS, just so you know, so for a long time and Dell. But one of the things that I see is the workforce is going to shift very rapidly, we want it or not, and not becoming a committed workforce, rather going to be a competency-based workforce. What I mean by that, a committed workforce is I have a contract for a full-time employee, and that is going to change. So it's going to be obviously for you, start with you, and it's for everybody else, is that how do you see to tap into, because that's exactly how the enterprise can get true benefit. Because I don't only need an agentic AI builder, I need a prompt engineer as well. So I need that person for like half an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, whatever. So this is not a consulting gig. This is like my augmentation of my task force gig. And that's number one question. Number two question is that how do these enterprises and the organization and the government realizes the future of the workforce relies on that kind of stuff. Not like, you come work for me and you essentially become associated with me for a long time.
I'm gonna set you up for this. So yeah, answer as is, but then I want you to turn it over to Vijit down there and get the enterprise point of view, because it's very different between the startup and the scale up and the enterprise side.
Well, I guess the first thing I would say to that, right? There's a bunch of buzz, about like smaller companies doing more revenue with less, and I think that trend will continue, right? So then the question becomes like, okay, what happens to all those, 100,000, 5,000 employee companies? Well, yes, I think they will be smaller, but I don't think that's a net negative, because I think there's going to be a bunch more companies, right? So a bunch of smaller companies with specialized knowledge. I think specialism is the name of the game. If you haven't realized, like I've been talking about that a lot, you need to go really, really deep on certain subjects. You need to be curious at the bleeding edge. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we're up here talking about today that we're going to need to achieve the things that we want to do as a society haven't even been invented yet, right? So like, you can't necessarily put on a job description that you want somebody with 5 years of that experience, because it doesn't exist, right? So again, going back to this gentleman's point about having somebody with a critical mind, I mean, the changes that we're seeing in terms of like even just job orders that we take. We had a call the other day with a startup founder, Series A. There's so much fluidity in the market now, right? Like founders, if you look at like the most recent YC batch, like these guys are pivoting 13 times before they actually launch a product. It's crazy. The underlying tech is moving so fast right now. They're going out and trying to get really, really good at testing the market and understanding whether or not they have something, and then they're pivoting and pivoting and pivoting again. And I think that this fractional sort of workforce thing will enable founders and companies to be able to do that more efficiently and like with less pain involved, right? So I do think that that's going to be something that we're going to see a lot more of. We've had some success with that type of thing recently. It definitely is a shift just in people's thinking, right? So like you think about this generation coming up, they might not want a full-time job. They might want to be really, really good at one thing. And hopefully, as a society, we have sort of the things in place to be able to facilitate that fluidity and those skills being shared across the companies that need those resources at any given time.
Maybe pass to Vijay at the end, so we can get the enterprise point of view on the future of resourcing.
Yeah, I think the enterprise is slowly shifting, definitely, in terms of the skillings. Everybody looking for a 10 to 30% of efficiency. Even though there is the consulting groups, right, and we negotiate the price, we be asking to give me a 20% year-on-year efficiency with the same price, right? So I think with that retrospective, our internal things we're trying to excuse more, trying to see how we're going to create a special group which can set the right structure across the enterprise. But more importantly, is all about the cultural things, right? Which takes time, and I think which has a lot of learnings. How we wanted to pivot and how we wanted to have a very rock solid framework to take our skill set to mature.
How are we on time? Oh my gosh, I have one last question. Does anybody have a brush? Because you just blew their hair back. Oh! Okay, well, thank you everybody for joining the conversation, leading the conversation. That was awesome, above expectations. And all right, everyone's thirsty, I'm sure. Let's get a drink and continue the conversation outside. Thank you all.